Hello, hello. I'm glad to see you on the Validator Show. And today we will speak about validation of Akash Network. For people, it's always interesting who is behind the nodes. Most of the people just don't understand who is the validators and what is to be validator. And now we have the possibility to share experience with other people, to explain to other people what is to be validator, how to begin to validate, what problems we can meet, or which benefits we can get. Will help to the people to prepare for the new digital paradigm, because the validator is one of the future profession. A lot of professions will die. No problems will stop us. We will meet a lot of problems, but we will pass through the all problems and we will get result. And this is the most interesting and good. People need to find themselves in new digital society, and to be a validator, it looks like very interesting solution. And today with us several representative validators of Akash Network. It's Kevin from Kava Labs. It's one of the main validator of Akash Network. It's Sistla from Freeflex Media. Sistla not only Freeflex Media validator of Akash Network, they are also Cosmos TV. Also, it's Amy from AC Validator.
Hi,
Amy,
guys.
can you hear us?
Yes. Hi, guys.
Great. And also it's Costa from Vitval. It means with validator, or it's better to call it Vitval Validator.
Hey guys, Vit12 Validator sounds good. Let's stick with that.
Great. Vitval Validator, also one of the main validators of Akash Network. And it will be interesting how much voting power we have here today. I see in Zoom Asanka. He is the community advocate of Kavati bot and very active crypto enthusiast from the Sri Lanka. Very nice to see him. And now I want to begin from some interesting questions. How you began to validate? Impossible to want to be a validator from the youth, as usually people want to grow up and become cosmonauts or doctors. But now time is changing. We have another dreams, and some of us became validators. And let's begin from Kevin from Kava Labs.
So before jumping into validation, I was working at Kava as an engineer. I guess I would go all the way back. We started as a company sort of more in reading white papers and figuring out what's going on back in 2017. And we really liked Cosmos vision in general. We think that decentralized applications running on Byzantine fault-tolerant consensus is a really compelling vision of the future of the internet. A lot of the reasons you might want to use Byzantine fault-tolerant consensus are sort of coming true rapidly today. And so we positioned ourselves to sort of be a part of that trend. And that started first by writing applications for Cosmos generally, and then that turned into the Kava blockchain platform. And obviously, when you launch a blockchain that requires validators, you learn a lot about it as you go. So we chose not to validate our own network for a number of reasons, just for decentralization and as well as splitting up of expertise. Being a validator is not the same as being an engineer. Making a good product doesn't necessarily make you a good validator. And so for the first probably 6 months, we didn't do any validation beyond testnets and sort of low security setups. But as we have sort of matured into the ecosystem and gotten to know better and more numerous projects, the first opportunity for us to run a validator and apply our expertise in that area came up with Akash, and we were happy to do it. And so, we sort of consulted with a number of the validators that work on the Kava ecosystem, figured out sort of best security practices for us for this network. And we've been validating on Akash since mainnet launch, and sort of really happy to be there.
And the same question for the Costa from Vitval Validator.
For Vit12, e-money network was the first testnet that we participated in. Little Mermaid was the name of the series of the testnets that they had. So that was a beginning. We like slowly branched out into other networks. We went with the region, we went with Akash, and there a whole bunch of it. Like it started with eMoney and it ended with us like being like one of the top validators on Akash right now.
Sistla, how you became a validator?
Hi guys. So we started off. So I'm Abhishek, Sisla Abhishek from Cosmic Tech Labs, the parent company of Freeflix Media. We were developing products before we got into Cosmos and blockchain. Participating not only in testnets, but we started off by working on multiple products and then exploring various blockchains. So the first set of blockchains that we explored were the Cosmos Gaia testnets, and since then we participated in multiple testnets. But as Cosmic validator and as Freeflix Media, so Akash is our first validator that we are running, and with Freeflix Media we choose to run validators on networks that specifically can partner with Freeflix Media. So this is our venture. This is our foray into validation. Yeah.
Amy from AC Validator, what was your way to become a validator?
Yeah, I'm not the CTO of AC Validator, I'm the financial manager, so I'm not so technical. We have our strength from our community, very well, Italian community. So we want to set up a validator to give some services to our users. And after that, we have no Cosmos because it's a very, very strong chain, and we want to provide new services to our users.
I was counting the total voting power of all validators who are here. Now we have 10 millions with half voting power of Akash Network. And because of it, I want to ask you why you began to validate Akash Network, and maybe you validate some other chains. And let's begin from Costa, from Vitval.
Yeah, so we validate on a whole bunch of chains. Like we are there on Akash Network, obviously. So we are there on eMoney. We are like currently running a testnet for Region Network. We are part of Oasis protocol. We are there in MuscleNet for Cosmos and testnet. We currently we are designing and operating the Big Bang testnet that we have over at Cosmos. We are part of Althea Peggy testnet as well. We are part of Desmos. We are part of Certec, Agoric, Witnet, Matic. And other than that, our validators that we operate under the moniker of Vitval, we also have offer our validating services for third-party clients. So for them also we operate validators for under Akash Network and Solana, Casper, and Graph Protocol.
Oh, it's so many chains. Sistla from Freeflix Media, why you began to validate Akash Network?
So as Freeflix, we don't validate other chains, but as Cosmic Validator, we have participated in some testnets earlier. We run a Cosmos mainnet validator. So our interest primarily with validation was to be able to understand how networks run, the infrastructure of the network runs, and also to be able to be a part of the community and be able to participate in multiple activities, not just governance, but multiple other activities for which you don't have to be a validator. But it always helps if you're a validator, and if people can work along with you and you can work along with people. So our potential interest to validate networks is to be able to not only help our network but the ecosystem in general.
And Kevin, I know that the Kava Labs validator don't validate Kava chain, and this is very fair because it will be very strange if Kava Labs validator validate Kava, and also it will be there some questions from the SEC, for example. If you validate other chains, tell what you are validate and why you also began to validate Akash Network.
Yep. Yeah. So our thesis around Akash is that sort of decentralized cloud is going to have a huge moment in the next 1 to 5 years, and that we really like working with Greg, the CEO, and think that he has a sort of great vision for what the decentralized cloud will become, as well as being in the Cosmos ecosystem. It's sort of a natural fit for us as a partnership. But in terms of validating other chains, Akash is the only chain that we validate on mainnet. And that's mostly because we don't want to be overextended. I hear all of these validator orgs who are, validating 20 chains. We would have to have, 5 engineers or something like that dedicated full time to making sure that there were no outages and having redundant infrastructure. And so for now, we only do one chain. We might do more than one chain in the future, but I'd be surprised if we became, a 10 chain organization or something like that. So we try to be pretty picky about who we work with.
And Amy from AC Validator, any other chains that you are validate and why you began to validate Akash Network?
But we now validate EOV, surname, and BAM protocol. But we have choose Akash because the idea behind that is so important, because cloud it's very important in the blockchains. So we want to provide new things to our users, and we are very interested in tech part that Simone as he's a moderator of the Discord of Akash. So this is for this reason.
Tell me now about your experience of validation Akash Network, how it's easy to work with community, which problems maybe you meet in the validation of Akash, or maybe it's no problems and it's very easy to begin to be a validator of Akash.
Yes, definitely. I wanted to go first also. Actually, like personally, we've been very happy with how the Akash Net has launched, how testnets ran, and I know that Witwit played a very huge role or a critical role in getting those up and running, getting the incentivized testnets up and running, the challenges, right? So this has been a very important experience. Not just for us, but because we were to an extent experienced with validators, it was fine. But what happened with others were they figured out a lot of the bugs that people discover much later, even before things actually started. So this has helped us quite a lot, and along with that, Akash also has like good documentation. In fact, I'll say great documentation compared to many of the other blockchain networks. And it has been a great experience for us overall. Yeah.
And Kevin from Kava Labs, it's Akash Network. It's your first chain, and the first chain, it's like a first love. You will never forget it.
Absolutely.
So tell me about your first experience of validation Akash Network. Was it easy to become a validator?
We had good experience from testnets running on Kava as well as Cosmos. So we had some in-house knowledge as well as being on Cosmos. There's only so much difference between the chains. You can often sort of figure them out. But I would say the biggest thing was sort of setting up our infrastructure for a production environment. Typically, we've sort of not focused on security and redundancy. And so we're fortunate enough to work with other validation orgs at Kava and sort of talk to them and sort of got up to speed on best practices for security. And then as people were saying, the documentation is actually quite good. And so there's a lot of resources, both technical and around things like security for validators that we sort of had to dig into, but it wasn't too bad.
Amy from AC Validator, as for Italian community, was it easy to begin to validate Akash Network like an English-speaking project?
It's easy because we have some experience with internet security, so for his it's not so difficult. It's very complete documentation on the website, so for us it's not so difficult, and the security part is very documented.
And Costa, you now tell us, because you are the validator with the biggest amount of chains, and you can really compare.
As everyone has mentioned, like the Akash network has like one of the best documentations around for any kind of chain that is running right now. So it makes the job like very easy when it comes to like setup of the infrastructure and everything. And like when it comes to like mainnet stuff, Akash is not like ready with the main functionality that they want to offer in the mainnet right now. Like that's why we had the EdgeNet and the third round of incentivized testnets. Once we go live with that upgrade, like that's when the actual fun will start on Akash Network. So we're kind of like looking forward to that because it's been very quiet. Like no issues have been like detected in the mainnet right now. It's very quiet. It's getting a bit boring. So let's hope like once we have the upgrade to the AkashNet part 2, like that's the thing that everyone is looking forward to. So
next question, it's a question about your advices to the other people. For example, if I want to be a validator of Akash Network and I come to you and tell, guys, you're already validators, can you give me some advice? I also want to be a validator. What you will answer for such person? Kevin, let's start from you.
Sure. So as I think a lot of people have pointed out here, if someone is new to validation, I would highly recommend them to start in the Cosmos ecosystem because it has the best documentation and has been on mainnet of a proof of stake network, I want to say, as long as any that's been around. And so A, the number of documentation is the highest, the quality is the highest, and then B, the community is the largest. So if you want to learn about validation from other validators, the Cosmos Discord is literally full of validator orgs, many of whom started on Cosmos and are now validating 20 networks or whatever. And so if you want to understand the sort of technical nuances as well as the sort of getting started, I would say start in the Cosmos ecosystem, start on testnets. Almost always there is some testnet. Right now they're gearing up for the IBC launch of Gaia. And so I know they're running a lot of testnets around that. You can almost always hop into a testnet in a few days and sort of start from there. And I think that's probably the best way to become a validator today, as well as, in the last 2 years, there's been tons of new validator orgs coming online. So I don't think it's too late, quote unquote, to get into validation. I think we're still early.
Very interesting. And Amy from AC Validator, you are not from the technical part of validation, but from economical part and social part of validation. So in what you will tell to the...
Yeah, it's an interesting question because for me, the main topic is about the community. So if you have a strong community of investors, you have facilitating this kind of validators. So if you have a community, if you have investors, and if you have the security part very strong, because you must give to the community the solidity of the validators. So this is the key of our business model. The security to the technical analysis on the chain, on the network. And Cosmos is the best because the documentation is very complete. The other chains hasn't that. For start, a new validator is very useful.
Costa from Vitval Validator.
As like Kevin mentioned, like testnets are your best friend when it comes to like getting started for any beginner in this field. So like that's the entire purpose of having a testnet, right? Like test everything out, make sure you're okay with it, find out what the problems are, fix it, and get back to work. Like that is what testnet is. Testnets are pretty much your best friend when you want to get started. And as like mentioned before, like we have like fantastic documentation like across the board. Everyone has like very good documentation, which has a bit of like security considerations in as well, because that is kind of needed. So, and like circling back to that point of community stuff, like you can see even in the Discord channel that we have, there's such like great camaraderie between everyone else because there is so much overlap between validators as well. And when it comes to like beginner stuff, like there is no question that can be considered as stupid question because everyone starts somewhere. So like supporting people who are new to this field, this comes pretty easily to the folks in Cosmos, which I'm very happy with and happy to be a part of it as well.
Interesting. And Sisla, tell us about your advices to the person who just want to begin a validate Akash network?
Akash, actually satisfies the checklist of, being a network with a good community, good product, good utility of the token. There are a lot of other benefits as well. So this way, there is one assessment of the network. But before, if someone asks me that they want to start a validator and any advice, one, there is the technical expertise first. Two, of course, your assessment of the networks community. And three, what do you want to do for the community, right? You just don't run a validator and expect people to stake and get rewards, right? So you contribute back to the network. So in general, our philosophy has been only when you can actually start to contribute, you go ahead and participate in the network, run nodes and run validators. But definitely, it's a good start for someone looking to explore a network to start validating, understand the community, and then maybe if they're not interested, they can just shut down the validator later, right? But it's really hard to build a validator as a business because it's hard to get delegations, it's hard to contribute without development effort, right? So there are a lot of things that still can be done by validators. We are also part of it. We also don't do a lot of things that we think we should do. So, I see a lot of potential. It's never too late to start running validators. And yeah, as everyone said, because Cosmos, the ecosystem has like that proof of stake organizations running, everyone here wins if someone else runs a validator. It's not like, there's a loss to someone. So everyone tries to help and everyone is really, very friendly about it. So, initially, we had Cosmos developers, actually, Jack and the others, Sunny, these guys were all talking in the chat, just to make sure the engineers were in touch with the guys that were running the validator. Right? So that actually helped a lot. And even now we have, from AkashNet, we have Adam, who's always online, always up. Even with team, we see a lot of, replies from Anil and the others as well. So yeah, I think that has been going great for us.
Akash Network had great community. What is validation for you? What is for you to be a validator? This is the questions about your inner feeling and about your vision of the validators. Is it like a kind of the business for you, or is it like a kind of life?
For us, is sense of community. Because it's a validator is being part of a project, being part of an idea, and this is our point of view.
Costa from Vitval Validator, what is for you to be a validator?
Validation is like just one part of the job, as like Abhishek mentioned, like just validating on networks is never going to be enough for anyone. We need to have development with it as well, which goes hand in hand with it. On that part, like we try to build like tools which will be helpful for each and every network. Like for example, for Akash Network, we built a block explorer, akash.aneka.io. Like that is something which counts as contribution. Like that part goes hand in hand with validation stuff. Similarly, for other networks as well, we validate on. We try to come up with tools that we feel would make the lives of every other person a bit easier. So that's what we feel like. Validation is good, but it is not the only thing that should be done.
Yeah. And Sisla, what is for you to be a validator?
Like the others said, right? Like for us, it is about being involved. One which we can be into, and of course, building on top of it, taking that ecosystem, that idea, that project forward is one other major reason why we commit to actually validating on the network. We might just end up with the software, but validate it. So it's a kind of a commitment that we, and as well as who the community we are working with. So yeah, I mean, like the other said, it is about one being part of the community, to being able to push the idea forward, take it to the next level. Yeah.
Kevin, what is for you to become to be a validator?
Being a validator is sort of at the intersection of being near the development of the network. So I think you, by default, will have a better understanding of what's coming on the network, and that makes you an informed community member. And then being sort of like a member of the broader community. And so I think a lot of people have touched on this, but I think some of the hallmarks of being a good validator are contributing open source tools. So oftentimes validators are developing their own either automation for infrastructure or ways of interacting with the chain. Open sourcing those up to the community is almost always a net win. It sort of helps build community infrastructure that everyone can rely on, as well as standardizes a lot of best practices. And I think we've seen that in the Cosmos ecosystem, where a ton of things will migrate from Cosmos to Kava to Terra to Akash. And as you go down the line, each of these projects, while being independent, can basically benefit from all of that tooling. And then when you want to have more projects enter the ecosystem, they're coming in at a much higher level than if there wasn't that. So I think that those are sort of some of the hallmarks of these validator organizations. And then over time, I think we'll see that governance will increase in importance. And so being an informed governor of the system, being able to advocate for votes which you think are important, or for proposals which you think need to be passed in order for the network to grow, I think all of that will sort of compound over time, and there will be an aspect of being a DAO member, or being sort of someone who's a hands-on governance person that will be very important for validation.
How validation was changing your life?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is validation. The concept, as well as then the hands-on application, gives you, I think, a much better understanding of the life cycle of applications on the internet, or just generally how our modern internet infrastructure runs. And once you understand that, you understand sort of the power of the concept of these Byzantine fault-tolerant state machines running on hopefully very decentralized infrastructure. A lot of our internet is actually very fragile and sort of guarded by gatekeepers who historically have been very benevolent. But we're already getting to the points where geopolitical tensions, where sort of the natural splintering of organizations is revealing a lot of the sort of fragility of our internet infrastructure. And I think understanding validation, understanding the value proposition of these Byzantine fault-tolerant applications of blockchains that sort of provide a decentralized infrastructure layer are starting to become more clear. And as you get sort of hands-on experience with that, you see where the current faults are in the system, where they can be improved, and then hopefully, where we're going to be in 5-10 years, such that we have a free and open internet that is sort of open to everyone and maintains that original vision of the internet, which today is very much sort of an open question.
This is very great and nice experience. And Amy from AC Validator, how the validation changed your life?
For me, the validation has improved our skills in the blockchain, in the internet, in the community. So have a new horizon to explore for us.
Sisla, how validation changed your life?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as Amy said, like, it helped us explore better. It helped us understand the intricacies of the network, or the actual software we were running. And it was also representation. That is a personal feeling, but it was also a representation of ourselves participating in the network, right? It was like telling people we are serious about this, and taking it forward. So that has been a very cool intrinsic factor. And it has also helped get team members on board, people who were not exposed to blockchain, slowly understand and get them to take it to the next level, both personally and as a team. So yeah, it has definitely helped a lot.
Yeah, and Costa from Vitval Validator, how validation changed your life?
Being a validator, it kind of gives you like a front seat viewing of like how everything works when it comes to like decentralized stuff, because you are so involved in it, and it gives you like the perfect opportunity to see like just how much of development goes into building a network of this magnitude, and being like a part of it. It's a very good experience to have for anyone involved. Like that's something that everyone will appreciate at some point or the other. So yeah, so I don't know, it's been fun. Like it will be fun no matter what. And we will have problems, we will deal with it. That's it. That's how it goes.
It's not only interesting, it's also very fun. It's give a lot of joy and pleasure. This is very interesting how we can get the good feelings from the some digital world.
Vladimir,
Yeah.
Vladimir, a quick point out. Actually, validation also helped us, not just me personally, I think everyone would say that, helped us make good friends, right, in the community. Because otherwise, there would have not been a reason or many reasons to talk to people. But, validation definitely gave us, it is like an icebreaker. As soon as you meet someone and say you're a validator on this network, you're like, wow, okay, you have something to talk in common, right? So, that has helped us quite a lot, and we enjoy the entire experience of it. Yeah.
This is the why the blockchain is so great, because we are really interplanetary. We are really from different cultures. We was born in different countries with different languages, but now we are all together. We speak very interesting English language that not really English, and because it's a crazy mix of the internet English language. We are from the different countries, from the different time zones, but we are together. And this is the cool possibility to ask a question.
I have a question.
Yeah, cool.
I'll throw it out there to anyone who wants to answer. What's the hardest network to validate? Like, it can't be Cosmos. There are networks that are much more difficult. What of the ones that you guys are validating, what's one that stands out as you're like, that's a tough one?
Very interesting question. So, Costa from Bitval Validators, you are validating a lot of change. This question is made for you?
As it goes, like the networks that give you the most number of troubles, like those are the ones that you get to learn a lot of things from. Like, for example, like we were part of Solana network, Graph network, Casper network. These are very, very different from like a normal Cosmos network that we have. A lot of different things go into it. A lot of, especially when it comes to like graph protocol testnet, a lot of economic design goes into the infrastructure as well. You have to like think of how much effort is going into getting a query, how much effort is going into serving that query. You have to like design an economic model around it. That can become a bit of a burden after a while if you're not that well versed when it comes to like model designing and stuff. But it is a fun experience, and that is one network that we learned a lot from because it was so different from what we were used to when it came to like Cosmos stuff. And same when it comes to like Casper as well. Casper network is having a lot of issues. That's what makes it good. Like every single bug comes out in the testnet and it gets fixed immediately afterwards. We have another round of testnet, we start validating on there, we find out the bugs over there. Again, the network crashes, we fix it, we start running it again. So that is the best part of it. Like the reason testnets were made is for this, and it serves its purpose beautifully. So I'd say Solana, Casper, and Graph protocol networks, they were the ones the most difficult and the most fun as well.
Amy from AC Validator, can you answer on the question of the Kevin? Because you also have experience in different chains.
For us now we are only on Cosmos, but we know that band protocol requires so much power now for the integration and for the queries. So now the chain that costs so much is banned, but it's very funny.
I know that the Sisla from Reflex Media have experience of the Akash Network and Cosmos Network. So you don't answer on this question, but you can ask a question. Do you want to ask any validator any question?
Yes, definitely. So, of course, we felt, Secret Network was also, quite a learning experience. that has been, one network that we were interested. But a question from my end is, I'll say directed towards, it is at two extremes. I'll ask Kevin as a network more than a validator, and I'll ask Kaustubh as a validator. So, there is this inherent, expectation of the validator to contribute to the network, but many might not. Many most might not be able to contribute, from a community standpoint, or they have their own ways of contributing. So Kevin, like with Kava, the network, what was something that you saw that actually fascinated you the most, and you thought it was a contribution that for which people went out of the way? And for Kaustubh, what was a contribution like that to a network that where the entire network, or the stakeholder that they serve to, found most value? So these are two questions. Kevin, to go first, if possible.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so for us, it's been working, just basically independently seeing orgs spin up front ends for our DeFi applications. So one of the sort of questions we had when we launched is like, we're going to be a little bit more product focused than tech focused. And we ideally don't want to own every point in the stack in terms of not just literally did we make it, but like, does somebody else understand it? It's really important when you're creating decentralized applications that not just the creators of the protocol have a deep understanding of it, that if I go away tomorrow, there are people who want to contribute to the product, that if sort of there are issues with the product, more people can contribute and understand them than simply the people who created them. And what we saw pretty much immediately upon launch is, 3 or 4 different groups independently start working on applications to build a front end to Kava, and asking technical questions at a very deep level, sort of about how it works. And seeing that happen sort of spontaneously gives you a lot of confidence that, you can continue doing what you're doing, and that the community is going to be there and sort of educating other people, because that's what happens. People use, if people use Cosmos Stations app, or if people use Trust Wallet to interact with Kava, they'll have a lot of questions. They become points of contact. They become experts in Kava, and they're able to answer questions independently. And seeing that grow has given us a lot of confidence in sort of what we're doing, and that the approach that we're taking is working, that it's sort of distributing itself to the community and people are gaining their own understanding.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks.
So coming to the point of like the tools a validator can come up, like build on or come up with while supporting a network, I'd like to give a shout out to Phobol over here, because the block explorer that these guys created, the Big Dipper one, it has set such a fantastic benchmark for everyone involved over here. So it is really like something like you can look up to. Like, this is something, okay, this is worth doing something like that. It gives kind of inspiration, like, okay, this is something we can do as well. Maybe we can take this, we can make it a little better, we'll take inspirations from this. That we got a lot from Phobol as well. So a huge shout out to those guys. Like, they set a very big benchmark, and like, we would like to, you could say, like, we would like to offer better services than they do in the future, but let's see, let's hope I can do that.
Definitely. Phobol has been around right since the start, and they've been at it, even though a lot changed, they were very consistent at what they were doing, and they kept shipping. So yeah, definitely. But what is like one tool that you guys developed, and that you felt that there was most value? Of course, I understand, Anika, you also developed something with Matic network, right? Like, is that for Matic validators?
Yeah, for Matic, and even for Cosmos as well, we tied up with Chainflow. They're one of the validators on Cosmos. We built a monitoring tool which has Grafana dashboards, which gives you a whole host of information about a validator when it comes to even like the network related stuff, or the system related stuff when it comes to how your instance is working, the CPU, RAM, and a whole host of things.
Right.
Similarly, for Matic as well, we have a similar kind of stuff set up for that as well. We have like dashboards that coming to Matic, there are like a couple of things in Matic added as compared to Cosmos stuff. We have a Heimdall chain, we have a Bohr chain, there's a bridge, and for that we show like each and every metric that's relevant to a validator. So on all the metrics that
So
are
any
there for
plans
Heimdall,
to do something
Bohr,
like that for Akash as well?
we could
For
think
the
about it. There are definitely a couple of tools we are working on right now. We just hope like we can get it done as quickly as possible. So we just have to wait and see like how it works out for us, because like once the upgrade happens on mainnet for Akash Net Part 2, like that's when it will be in full force from our end. So let's hope like we
Definitely
can
we are also
contribute there
waiting
as
for
well.
that. Sure, got it. Thank you, Kaustav.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
And Amy from IC Validator, now your turn to ask any question to any validator or to several validators by your wish.
But a question to all. So if you have some community, because for us it's important, as you know, and I want to ask you if you have some strong community to support your validator or not.
Let's begin from the Kevin now. Do you have a community of Kava Labs validator?
Yeah, so I think this is one of the things that we did that maybe some other projects weren't doing initially. We did an early validator program where anyone who participated in our first 2 testnets received tokens on mainnet. And that was a great way to bootstrap the community, as well as sort of let the community know that like we were serious about personally not validating and then sort of turning over validation to the community. And we saw a pretty good community sort of spring up out of that. And then I think as you ship code, you also gain community when you know you're one of the projects that's always looking to innovate, that's upgrading the network multiple times a year, that's moving fast in terms of versions of the Cosmos SDK. That naturally attracts the validator orgs who are themselves the most interested. And so we've had sort of a lot of success both incentivizing a bit of the community and then sort of trying to move as fast as possible and seeing which orgs want to do that as well. And that's been a great fit for us in terms of finding really active and involved validators.
And Costa from Vitval validator?
Well, we don't exactly have a channel, as you might say, for validator stuff, because we are doing this for ourselves right now, and we have a couple of clients that we manage the validators for. So right now we don't really have a way of communicating with the delegators that we have, but we are working on it, and in the future we will have concrete stuff on it that we get a direct line of communication with the delegators and people who are interested in staking with us. We will have that in the future. We don't have it right now.
And Sisla?
So, we have worked on building a community, a small one, but, a close-knit community for Cosmic Validator. That's one of the validators on the Cosmos mainnet network. And, there were requests for investment advice, people wanted to know how to buy atoms and things like that. So, working on setting up some documentation, private documents, but, that actually helped. But there's still a long way for us to go, and we are looking for we are building tools too, as Freeflix, and there'll be an interesting announcement tomorrow also. So we are building tools to engage the community directly, Web3 community, and hope to see a lot of validators participate.
This is so cool and nice. Now we understand that Amy have the biggest community around validator, and all other validators can get this experience from Amy. Our validator show need to be not only helpful for the other people to understand what is validation, but also help to the validators to exchange an experience and to support each other, because the validation, it's not like a traditional concurrence where the people try to be the first and don't care about everybody else. In blockchain, validators understand that everybody in the one decentralized board, and everybody needs experience of each other, and everybody will win in not because of the concurrence, but because of the cooperation. we have today some people who are not the validators here. Are you ready to ask any questions? If you have questions, please turn on microphone and feel free to ask any question to any validator. Hello.
Hello. I have a question. Can I know the minimum requirements of to be a validator? I mean, in the PC power and everything, where we can find those information? Because what are the minimum infrastructure needs? Can we know it? Because it's something interesting, to be a validator.
Who is ready to answer on these technical questions? Maybe Kevin?
Yeah, sure. So depends on the Cosmos network. I know for Akash they do 64 validators, but in general the way it works in Cosmos is like you have a top N number of validators that can participate. And you have to have either your own stake or delegated stake equal to the amount to get into the top N. So I know like on Kava it's the top 100, and basically there's only 85, so you can join Kava with any amount of Kava. Whereas for a chain like Cosmos, I think it's 125, but it's pretty competitive. And so there's 150 validators or whatever, and you have to be in the top 125. Generally, the like rule of thumb is like if it's a newer, younger network, you can usually just become a validator without any competition. And if it's a more mature network, a larger network like Cosmos, higher upfront costs, as well as you need more power going forward to maintain your spot as a validator. And then you said, as far as infrastructure, really depends on the network. So as we were talking about, some networks require a ton of infrastructure, like Solana, you have to be an expert at sort of heavy duty cloud infrastructure. Other networks, you can run pruned nodes and there's not that much network overhead. Sort of a basic server is all you really need. Modern server is all you really need. And so generally you want to check network by network, but Cosmos networks are fairly friendly from an infrastructure perspective. They're not crazy high throughput, whereas a lot of the more new higher end, doing 10,000 transactions per second networks are going to require a lot more processing power.
So I think that we can come to the finish line, and please tell something. What do you want to tell to the people who will watch Validator Show?
So I think I would like to point out that sort of 2021 is a big year for the Cosmos ecosystem. So this is the first time that IBC is going to be launching on mainnet. And I think, that's not only a Cosmos thing, every chain that upgrades to IBC can take advantage of that. And I would say that sort of if you are interested at all in the validation ecosystem, this is a great time to get in and to sort of start looking at what's going on. I think that 2021 will be a fascinating year for sort of testing out the tech. I don't think that we're going to go from IBC launch to everyone integrating IBC immediately. But if you take the time to understand the tech, to understand sort of the implications of what's going on with IBC, and to understand that this is really the first time that a very well specified, very well implemented and sort of like top experts, not just from the blockchain industry, but generally from the technology industry, have sort of come together to make a proposal for how blockchains can communicate with one another. I just think that, this is a great time to sort of dig into that and to understand the implications and to realize that sort of this could be a watershed moment in the Cosmos ecosystem, as well as sort of in the decentralized application ecosystem. So definitely keep your eye out on IBC this year, and sort of if you already have your eye out, this is a great time to sort of dive in and dig deep. And I think it'll be an exciting year.
Costa from Vitval Validator, your message to the people and for yourself in the future.
Yeah, as Kevin mentioned, like with the release of Stargate and the actual IBC module being developed completely, like this is like one of the best developments that we've had in this space in quite a while. So it's like an exciting time right now. A lot of things are there in the pipeline for a lot of folks. Let's hope everything works out for everyone else.
Amy from AC Validator, your message for the future?
Yeah. 2021, it's a very, very interesting year for Cosmos, for the blockchains in general. So I want to say to hold on, and because this is the future, so we're gonna do that.
Amazing. And Sisla, your word to the world.
So yeah, definitely. I mean, as everyone said, it's a very important year for both Cosmos and blockchain in general. And we are looking at it, from a media standpoint. When we are exploring, we see a lot of non-technical folks exploring blockchain. And this year will be the rise of maybe a use case where which doesn't involve a lot of the technical aspects, but people can just start using blockchain without actually knowing all the intricacies of it. And it'll be the ecosystem will develop better, and we hope to contribute to it as well.
It was a big pleasure to hear this information from you. It's a great and interesting experience. I really pleased that you come to the Validator Show and spread the ideas and share your experience, because it's a very important, not only for us, but I think for the whole humanity, with this way to the digital paradigm where the common world stopped to be the common, and digital value became same important like a material value. And our next Validator Show will be about validation Cosmos Network in general. Watch us on the Cosmos TV. We will try to bring you new experience. We will try to show you world from the some other side, and maybe it will change your life. Because the validation changed the lives of the people who became a validator. And if you want to change your life, maybe the validation is one of the interesting solution for you. See you in 2 weeks. Bye. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
It was fun.